Hello, hello. Welcome to the very first episode of Venus Cove. Happy New Year, everyone. The year is 2025, and I decided to make a podcast. I've been wanting to make a podcast the past 2 or 3 years, and I finally made it. I did it. We're here, and you're listening to it. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys, because today I have a spellbinding account to share with you. And that is that this year will be my last year in my 20s. Some people make a big deal out of it. Not I. I'm only making an entire first episode about it in my podcast. But I used to be someone who didn't. However, now that I made it this far, and the amount of people that are here with me now, or lack of, I'm able to really process how I feel about it, And I wanted to share with you some pieces of my 20s that taught me and showed me things that I know now, and maybe you could relate to. Such things are the death of friendships, getting older, not just physically, but mentally, reminiscing through my old dreams of my younger years, and of course, it wouldn't be a Venus Cove episode if we didn't talk about spiritual beliefs, the now and the then. So let's get started. The year is 2020, and we're all losing our shit. We don't know how to act. Our social skills are declining, and the world is going through a huge transformation state altogether. And it's within these events that I start to lose my friends. I won't get into the nitty-gritty details of how, but I begin to realize that my friends are fading, and there's not a lot I can do about it. Everyone seems to have given up on each other and scatter from all the corners of the earth, and I begin to realize that I am all alone in a post-apocalyptic world, without warning, without solace. And I naturally grew very lonely and bitter and lost trust and faith in people. I lost my social skills and I became introverted, not just inside, but out, I didn't know what to do with my days without friends. I didn't quite know how to be alone. And the truth is, 5 years later, today, I'm still trying to figure it out. So what I want to say is that having friendships are very important, But the type of friendships you have are the essence of you. And I realized that as I was losing them and how I was losing them and how we all behaved, it just started to feel like we were just butter slipping through each other's fingers. I felt like no one really tried hard enough. No one really had moved for each other, for me. And so I took a back seat from holding everyone together and observed if anyone would come back to me or reach out. And no one did. I realized I was the glue for each individual that I called friend. And so realizing this made me feel like everything I ever knew was something of an illusion. I thought we were strong, but it was my imagination that made it strong. Which is when I knew I was a great and all-powerful manifester. I'm kidding. But coming to terms that my old friendships really had come to an end, I had to sort of help myself get out of that rut of bitterness and victim mentality. And as any manifestor or creator, I had to create something new. So I went on something of a voyage, seeking new people into my life. And I found a couple, I found a friend who's been really kind and really amazing to me. And I found another, and she's also been kind and thoughtful, and I'm just so grateful for them. But as I was making new friendships, I started to observe myself and realize, I don't think I need a bucket load of people in my life anymore. I don't think I even want that anymore. And honestly, I think it was probably the deafening silence of the lack of that made me kind of get used to that, but also appreciate my own solace. At first, I think, like most people, I was afraid of my own mind and my own thoughts. Being alone for too long, it's a scary thing. And I feel like that's why social media allows us to get out of our heads a little too often, but also, distract ourselves from our thoughts. And of course, I engage in this too, doom scrolling and all, but I did learn a lot. I came down this rabbit hole of the niche that promotes being alone without friends and how to live your life and still go out by yourself and think for yourself and travel alone, which I'd done before all this anyway, the traveling part. And there's a lot of people who openly and vulnerably spoke about not being one of those people in big or even small friend groups. They have their one or two friends or solely, and I mean solely alone, and they continue to live life, which was such a huge thing to me. Like, I thought, are you happy? Like, how long has this phenomenon been happening for you, Like, I had questions. Like, is this life sustainable? Or, like, what if you need someone to zip up your dress from the back, like shopping? Do you shop alone? I'm a shopaholic. So, like, or do you just online shop? Or what if you're dating someone and you need a friend to tell you to get the fuck out of that, Like, all these little things in life are when you kind of need a friend, Don't even get me started on the dating. Oh, my God. But I think what I learned, and I'm still learning from this experience, is that, friendships really are valuable. Like, I'm not promoting to leave all your friends and find your own independence and don't give other people a chance simply because I'm going through that right now. But, like, I also realize that being alone is incredibly valuable too. And that is something the universe had not put in my path up until now. So I did not know how to act. I think a friend or even a community really helps when seeking advice. They help protect you. They have your back, or at least they're supposed to. And animals kind of do this too, like a wolf pack or a lion kingdom, they're united, they're stronger in numbers. So I think naturally as humans, we kind of try to find our own pack or our own cult or, like our own community that share common interests with each other. And then there are people who don't quite do that. They are more nomadic. They are lone wolves. They move from place to place, setting up like a mini pop-up shop and then disappear to another part of the space. And I've kind of learned to enjoy that. I realize that I do feel a lot lighter with less people in my life. I feel like I can move more, I can do more, I can think more, and I can create more anywhere that I go. And as a Libra, I think this works really well with my element. Some days I do mourn for my friends, of course. But other days, I'm more grateful that I'm continuously learning how much freedom and less judgment I don't need to hear every day. Because, in most communities or tribes or cults or whatever groups you know of, there is usually going to be judgment. There are other conscious beings there, and it would be kind of weird if no one put in their 2 cents of things. Like, we're human. It's the human experience to talk, opinionate, inform, gossip. I can't be mad about that. It's how we share stories. It's how we survive. It's how we find leaders, and it's how we educate each other. And it has its perks. And I had the opportunity to be a part of that at one point in my life. And now I'm in this one. And if you're someone going through this, be it as an adult or a teenager, maybe just maybe, now is a good time of reflecting who you are and learning more about yourself in the most gentle way possible. I learned in part of losing old friendships that we tend to start blaming ourselves for losing people, but now is really not the time to shame yourself or be harder on yourself. Although, if you're someone who did cause harm to others and they have left you, I would say take this time to understand and learn from your actions and give yourself a chance to do better next time. There's always something to learn and get out of in every situation. And honestly, I just want to say this, unpopular opinion, and yes, I'm going to say it on my very first episode, but fuck the cancel culture to a certain extent. That doesn't help us grow and become better people. It's just people on the internet throwing up all that they feel inside themselves and crucifying the person they're trying to cancel. Focus on yourself if you really want to be a better person. Don't crucify yourself. It's not necessary. It takes time and practice to incorporate healthier habits, and that's it. There's not much to it. There's no magical formula. The habits you have today are simply things that you've been doing for a very long time. Realize your habits and patterns, and if they're not serving you, change it. Let's move on. Now, let's talk about the cosmetics of it all. Getting physically older. To whoever is listening that told me my bones were going to start hurting in my late 20s, I'm so sorry I didn't listen. And I hope you're doing okay. Like, why does my back hurt? I'm 29, not 92. Ow. Aging is a real thing, and it's not pretty. It's annoying. As a woman especially, there is so much more marketed to us. The type of workouts that are good for you, the type of workouts that are not good for you, the type of physical illnesses women get out of nowhere, like PCOS or endometriosis, for example. Like, when did that happen? Skincare, a routine, being the it girl, beauty products that'll complete our lives, that girl, which is someone who wakes up at 5 a.m., the crack of dawn, which I came to realize, if you're someone who is actually really busy and has a lot to do throughout the day, then yeah, 5 or 6 a.m. is actually a good idea. But not everyone needs to do that, Moving on, what we eat, exercising at the gym, Pilates, yoga, running, praying, meditating, manifesting. Like, being a woman is a lot of work, and I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Like, I feel like women are being more valued now for all that we bring to the table, aside from like being the creators and bearers of life and all, which is already enormously valuable. But now on top of that, I feel like the pressure of our enormous power of being a woman is kind of being forced and marketed on us to be used to our fullest potential. Like, I can't just sit around and, for like an hour and do nothing. Like, I always have to do something. Or at least I feel the pressure to, like, can anyone relate? Like, how's the Cove feeling right now? Are we tired? I'm tired. So I think what I like to do in times like this, when I just feel overwhelmed by everyone, I like to challenge myself to a dance-off. We're on planet Venus right now. We need to shake it off, bestie. Shake it. Get the chemicals flowing. We just went from mourning our friendships to our enormous power of being a woman and getting older. Like, come on. But yeah, I need to take bigger pauses. I will work on that more in the future. Cue the music. Where is the music, Karen? So that is my best advice for you. Fucking dance. Put on any song, all by yourself, in your room. If you live somewhere where noise isn't acceptable, put on some headphones and just dance. It can be one song. It can be half of one song. And I'm saying that especially because as someone who has had really bad, severe depression, getting up is the hardest part to do. So I get it. If you can get up for a minute into one song and move at least one body part, one limb, you did it. You did it. You did the best you could do, and that's good enough. Moving on. Let's get into my 100 different dreams of my 20s. Don't worry, I won't get into every single one that I had. I will only share one, and I'll kind of explain my vibe, my 20s vibe in a nutshell. This one really stuck out to me, and I'm going to share with you my opinion of why it didn't work out. I have always wanted this type of lifestyle, and maybe we all know someone or a friend who did it, maybe a family member or that one cousin who got to try it out, or a friend of a friend. I feel like we all know someone who's done it by now, and we were always curious as to how it turned out. But long, long ago, I was a free-spirited hippie wild child living off the fumes of Ride by Lana Del Rey, and yet raised by the streets of New York City that I constantly rejected. I always knew corporate America was not for me, so naturally the universe showed me a different side of life. And that, my friends, was van life. For about 4 years, I had wanted to try out life in the open road and live rent-free with my friends, singing Kumbaya in random cities because I'm a singer and and I make money like that and just continue traveling and being happy and sleep in beautiful mountains and forests and cliffs and oceans and live out the rest of my days this way with my little Westphalia. None of that happened. For one, I could not keep a job for the life of me. I had terrible work ethic. And to even get a van, it would cost up to $10,000. And the only other friend who was down for it also had a hard time saving, so we didn't end up doing it. We both loved traveling, and we took over every city we came across, but unfortunately, we just didn't have the discipline or the responsibility to leave New York for good and travel forever. So I once again tried my hardest to find loopholes and figure out how to make this van life thing happen. But to no avail. I only figured out how to make a lot of money post-COVID, but by then, as I mentioned before, everyone was long gone. Also, the fact that I didn't have much friends anymore made me realize, I don't really want to be doing this all by myself. Sure, I can get a pet dog or snake or both and have them travel with me, but, it just didn't feel right traveling all alone with no one to talk to. Miles and miles of silence. There's only so much music you can sing or play, Life of Pi did not inspire me, okay? But let's say I did have all my friends and we did do all this together, right? In my opinion, I still don't think it would have worked out because there were still going to be other challenges that I had no idea about. And that only later on social media would influencers who once promoted this lifestyle would tell everyone that it's not as freeing and easy living as it seems. It comes with its own sacrifices that probably the modern comfy city person would not be inclined to get used to so quickly. Like if you're a hygienic, clean person, or even someone who has just basic kind of hygiene, you'd have to sometimes not be able to completely clean yourself, or you'd have to be frugal with your water and look for places where they do. If you live somewhere really, really cold and want to settle there for the winters, it would be very, very cold in your van. No matter how much insulation you put, it's going to be cold. You're sleeping in a car. It's going to be cold. And the whole living off grid or in a van or a tiny house with nothing but like berries, bears, and cold winters might not necessarily equal happiness for everyone, or at least myself, or always having a hard time finding a place to park if you want to stay closer to cities for resources, or always watching your back and having to sleep with one eye open if you want to camp out in the woods. Predators of all kinds could mess with you there. Bears, men, snakes slithering inside your van or tiny home. And I had no idea about those things, especially the hygienic part. That was very scary. Because, some vans don't have a shower or, a toilet even. You have to get those things separately, or you have to maybe attach them, or maybe you have to get a gym membership and always go to the gym to take a shower. There's so many things, Granted, these things are all obviously able to push through. They're not impossible. But I had to ask myself, were these things that I would be okay with in the long run, as something that I do for a couple years, would I be okay with? And the honest truth is, no, I would not be okay with it. It was just too much for my younger self to be able to handle and think of every cautionary thing to not cause me or my friends harm from. And I add my friends into this because being, as I said, in this scenario, my friend's still here, I was known as the protector of the group. I would make sure everything is going right. Therefore, I wouldn't get that much help from them. So yes, this would be me and my little chicklets out in the open road. I think if you're someone who has a dream and you always feel like it's kind of impossible to do with your friends, maybe those aren't the right friends to do it with. I think that's the reason why. That's a big reason why it wouldn't have worked out. If they're more criticizing your ideas rather than helping you achieve them, it just might be that that friend group probably won't be the most helpful, and maybe that was my reason why it didn't work out. I think if I did have friends who did share the same wild child spirit with me, and I saw that they were also going to help with the responsibilities of living life differently, it probably would have happened, but actions spoke so much more to me, and I just didn't feel it coming from them. And that's okay, you know? I'm not saying that that friend group sucked, you know? It's just people who didn't have the same interest as me. The final thing I wanted to share with you all on the last topic of this episode is none other than my morphing beliefs of my 20s, which I think back now was so beautiful and fun and terrifying. But let me give you a little backstory. I was born Roman Catholic into the Catholic Church, but my family wasn't that heavy on it. Somewhere in my early 20s, though, I randomly got very religious. I took it very seriously. And I feel like this is how a lot of younger people get at that age. You know, we're looking for something to believe in or not believe in, or believing in ourselves, and standing by our decisions and such. It's natural, you know? Leave your kids alone, parents. Unless, you know, they're in a cult, definitely get them out. Anyway, I got super religious and went to church every Sunday, all by myself. But at the same time, I always felt God or Jesus to feel more or less light and free-spirited too, because I mostly heard good things like Jesus loves you no matter what, so enjoy your life. And I'm like, bet. But then I got into a really terrible, disturbing relationship, and it all flipped upside down for me there. A conjuring story for another time. But so with that, it changed my view on so many things. And then COVID ended up happening. And then my best friend at the time introduced me to astrology, which was 5 years ago. And wow, it honestly felt like Jesus almost never left me. Let me explain. I never saw Jesus as like a part of religion like that. Like I always saw him as like more than that. And I always felt that the energy or the idea of Jesus was always light and good. So I always felt like even though I went through so much rewiring of my brain with that god-awful relationship, as many preachers say, Jesus will always find a way to help you back to the light. And so astrology felt like, oh my God, everything kind of makes sense again. I felt empowered again and like I have some sort of direction again. And this time it was going to be with nature. Reading and understanding the language of the sky and feeling guided again. Because I was terribly lost before that. And I found this spiritual path in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic. And it's been an ever-changing spiritual path for me ever since. Now, I know I kind of give off witchy vibes, spooky, Halloween vibes, but I don't think I'm a witch. You're more than welcome to call me one. I find that as a compliment and quite powerful, but I don't really do much crafting or casting in my line of magic. I don't read tarot. I don't do sigils. I know about those things. I just don't resonate with them. Crystals, every now and then I get into it, but I kind of just use my mind a lot and the stars to like navigate me. And I think as a Libra, which is an air sign for those who don't know, I've been saying that a lot here, I don't have a lot of attachment to physical objects like that, aside from my phone. But everything for me is more mental. And knowing that, I know that if I want good energy, my mind needs to be clean, you know? It has to be like a calm sanctuary to work my Venus magic. I always try to strive to do things with good intentions and lots of love, and learning that about myself as a Libra, even before I didn't know it, made so much sense to me. It just felt so perfectly aligned that I like it that way. I think astrology helps you understand yourself a lot more, and it honestly felt like I was discovering who I was after getting beaten down. Like I felt kind of born again. Like how much cardinal energy I really have felt really empowering. Cardinal means the leader, the initiator, the one who starts said idea. I have been on and off this path for like 5 years now, and I take breaks. I'm not all cosmic-y all the time. I'm down to earth sometimes. I'm here, and that's okay. Doesn't make me any less of a believer. But yeah, that's my spiritual journey in a nutshell. That's just something I wanted to share a little bit with you guys, teach you a little bit with you guys. So if you're someone who's on a religious or spiritual journey, or someone who is curious of those things, I would definitely encourage you to learn more about them with respect to each belief system. I normally move through a philosophical lens. It's kind of my shield to not take things too personally, because I am human and these things all have their beautiful moments and it's opposite. But that's all I have for you today. I think this went quite well. We got a little sentimental, a little raunchy, a little history lesson, added in my 2 cents of what I think is a good way to move forward if you're going through these things, and I hope everyone found it cozy or informative, or at least squeezed out a little chuckle, got someone to make coffee or tea while listening, and that's all I have for you today. The next episode will be on the first Friday of February. I'm gonna try to eventually do 2 episodes per month in the future, but for now, dipping my toes into this, really taking my time to come up with ideas and all that good stuff. I'm just going to keep it as once per month. So yeah, it's a new year. Let's not overwhelm ourselves so quickly. Your goals will be accomplished. You'll be fine. But first, baby steps. Once again, I want to wish everyone a happy new year, and thank you to all who listened and made it to the end. Feel free to leave a review, comment, questions, concerns, disturbances, and I'll see you in the next one. My name is Johanna, also go by August, and this is Venus Cove, signing off. Until next time, Venus Angels!